Ayan, so good day again, my home students. So welcome once again to our pre-recorded lesson. And for this time, I am recording about lesson 2, which has something to do with the local networks, global networks, and planetary networks. So mamaya malalaman natin ano-ano ba itong mga networks na to, ano itong local networks, global networks, and planetary networks. Okay, so everyone, I want you to focus your full attention on this video, and if you have any questions regarding any concepts that I will be tackling on this pre-recorded video, please jot it down on your notebooks. And likewise, before you watch this video, please prepare yourselves and armor yourselves with a pen and your notebook. Kasi nga, you are going to jot down notes, okay? So yun nga, so as I was saying earlier, if you have any question regarding any concepts that I am going to be tackling here on this pre-recorded lesson video, jot them down first on your notebook and then you can raise it during our synchronous meeting. Okay? So, start na tayo. So, punta muna tayo sa ating lesson objective. So, kagaya nung pre-recorded lesson number 1, I presented first the lesson objective. So, the same is going to be done this time. Okay? So, number 1 is, at the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain strategic analysis and intuitive thinking. So, under it, you are also going to be able to define strategic analysis and intuitive thinking, and likewise, you will be able to differentiate the key components in strategic analysis and intuitive thinking. So itong two skills na to ay kailangan nyo malaman, okay, for you to be able to thrive in this century. Okay? So next is, at the end of this lesson, you will also be able to apply intuitive thinking in solving a problem in the community using a map of social networks. So by the sentence itself, we can already conclude that at the end of this lesson, you will be able, or you are expected to apply your intuitive thinking skills as you learn from this discussion when you are going to solve a problem in the community, okay, using a map of social networks. Next is, you will also be able to explain the concrete effects of globalization. So pag sinabi natin concrete effects, ito yung talaga nakikita, nararamdaman, at yun. Okay? So next is, you will also be able to explain the need for cooperation and collaboration to achieve interconnectedness of people and nations. So meaning to say, you are expected to explain why there is a need for cooperation and collaboration in order to achieve interconnectedness among people and nations. Next is, you are also going to discuss your personal contributions that can actually solve the problem of climate change. So pag-uusapan din natin dito sa climate change and bakit siya kailangan pag-usapan. And last is, of course, you are going to make a stand on how the consequences of one's action affects the lives of others and environment. So you are going to write an essay, okay, for this one. No? You are going to write an essay explicating or at least discussing how the consequences of a person affect directly or indirectly the lives of others and his or her environment. Okay, so these are our lesson objectives. So punta na tayo sa first concept, which has something to do with networks. So as we all know, and generally speaking, pa sinabi natin networks, ito yung tinatawag nating, alright, connections. Okay, so according to Anders Cartbeest in 1995, networks represent the idea of connections between entities in space. So sabi ni Anders in 1995, para sa kanya, pag sinabi nating network, this represents the very idea of connections between entities or between people and everything, okay? Anything and everything in a space. Pag sinabi natin space, in an environment, okay? In a specific environment. So that is according to Anders Cartbeest in 1995. So next is, According to Charles Cadochin in 2012, networks contain set of objects and a mapping or description of relations between the objects and modes. So ano sabi dito, sir, no? So according to Charles Cadochin in 2012, para sa kanya, networks contain set of objects. So pag sinabi natin objects, ito yung environment and the creatures or the living entities. Okay? So regardless yan. No? Okay? Regardless of set or regardless of networks. Okay? And a mapping or description of relations between the objects and modes. So, ayun yan, no? So, binigyan din ni Charles ang importansya ng mapping and description sa relationship ng objects and modes. Okay? So next is, lastly, according to David Batten in 1985, networks is a system or networks are a system in which some elements are connected to other elements in a systematic way. So please take note, systematic way. Okay, so of the three definitions of networks here, itong kay David Batten ang pinaka hindi siya masasabing theoretically, no? Pero more conceptualized. Okay? Bakit? Kasi according to him, no, networks are elements that in a systematic way. So ibig sabihin na merong sistema. Okay, merong reason bakit merong connection, bakit merong networks. Okay? So to sum it up, so pag sinabi natin network, the very idea of networks is connections. Okay? Connections between what? Between who? Okay? Connections between entities. Okay? Connections between objects. And connection between some elements. And they are all interconnected in a systematic way. Okay? May reason kung bakit sila magkakakonekta. May reason kung bakit sila connected through a network or networks. Okay? So next, so what are the basic elements of networks? Meron tayong tinatawag na actors, links, and flows. Okay, so punta tayo kay actors. So pag sinabi natin actors, these are the working entities that are interconnected in some systematic way. Okay, so pag sinabi natin actors, these are the working entities, and generally speaking, they are composed of humans. Okay, so humans in the form of friends, peers, colleagues, co-nationals, and others. Okay, so kasama din dito si family, kasama din dito si intimate relationship. Okay, so actors. So pag sinabi natin actors, kaya nga siya tinawag na actors kasi they are the working entities. Okay, they are the working entities that are interconnected in some systematic way. So pag sinabi natin some systematic way, iba-iba yung sistema ng kanilang pagiging interconnected. Okay? So hindi sila pare-parehas ng system as to their interconnectedness. Okay? So these actors can also be non-humans. All right? So these actors can also be non-humans. So these non-humans can be in the form of computers, non-human organisms, ecological system, and others, or both human and non-human, such as people operating machines. Okay? So again, pag sinabi natin actors, these are the working entities that are interconnected in some, okay? Please take note, in some systematic way. Okay? So actors can be composed of humans or non-humans. Right? So next is of course the links. Okay? So pag sinabi nating links, they are referring to the connections among the actors in networks. Okay? So ano yung reason bakit si human ay connected to kay non-human? Okay? So ano yung reason bakit ikaw ay konektado sa iyong kaibigan, sa iyong pamilya. Okay? So, links can be in any relationship like marriage, friendship, kinship, professional, etc. Okay? So again, pag sinabi nating link, ito yung nagbibigay kahulugan sa iyong connection between entities. Okay? So next is flows. So pag sinabi naman natin flows, this refer to the things being exchanged by the actors through their links. So in other words, no, ito yung pinaka-reason no, bakit merong links sa actors. Okay? So ano-ano itong mga flows na to? So flows are usually information and resources. Okay? So flows exist because there are information and resources. And these two concepts, these two things give rise to the connection between give rise to the links between entities in a systematic way. Okay? So sabi nga dito, no, actors are connected because there is something that they want to exchange with one another. Okay, so nabubuo yung relationship. Okay, nabubuo yung isang relationship because of flows. Okay, so ito yan, no? Okay, so again, these are the basic elements of um, networks. So again, the basic elements of networks are actors or nodes, links or ties, and flows. So pag sinabi natin actors, these are the working entities that are interconnected in some systematic way. So pag sinabi natin some systematic way, iba-iba yung connection niya. Okay, iba-iba yung connection niya sa isang particular entity. Okay? So actors can be in a form of humans or non-humans. So pag sinabi natin humans, of course, ito yung mga tao. Okay? So humans can be in a form of friends, peers, colleagues, co-nationals, and others. Pag sinabi natin non-humans, this can be in a form of computers, non-human organisms such as, of course, animals, ecological system, and others. Or both humans and non-humans. Okay? So actors. So links, pag sinabi natin links, ito yung connection. Okay, connections among the actors in networks. Okay, so links define the relationships that exist among the actors. So links can be any relationship like marriage, friendship, kinship, professional, etc. So sabi nga dito, no, link defines the relationship that exists among the actors. So pwede kang connected sa isang tao kasi kayo ay kasal, kayo ay magkaibigan, kayo ay magkamag-anak, kayo ay nasa isang profession, etc. Okay? And pag sinabi natin flows, these are the things being exchanged through their links or in their links. Okay? So si flow ang nagsasabi kung bakit merong links. Okay? Kung paano nabuo yung links. Okay? So generally speaking, no, usually flows are information and resources. So pag sinabi natin information, pwede yan data or knowledge. So nagkakaroon ng links kasi merong desire to exchange information between people or between any entity. Okay? Or nagkakaroon ng links because merong money involved, merong people, merong goods, equipment, beliefs, power, norms, attitudes, and values involved. Okay? So next. So what are the different types of networks? Okay? So meron tayong tatlong types of networks such as local networks, global networks, and planetary networks. Okay? So pag sinabi natin local networks, these are the networks of individuals, organizations, and communities that operate locally. Kaya nga siya tinawag na local network kasi nasa isang locality lang siya. Okay, so these are the local networks of individuals, organizations, and communities that operate or that function locally. Okay, ano example nito? Pwede ito yung sa barangay nyo, pwede ito sa pamilya nyo, pwede ito sa mga kamag-anakan nyo. Okay? So, what are the local networks? So, meron tayong tinatawag na family, meron tayong tinatawag na school, okay? Meron tayong tinatawag na, okay, religion or church. Next is, of course, government. Alright? And next is social media. And lastly is, of course, friends. So these institutions, okay, these institutions are what comprise local networks. Okay, local networks. Okay? So next is of course global network. So ito na yung extended version ni local network. So according kay Bolton in 2008, it is a major feature of contemporary process of globalization. which are highly evident in the everyday lives of people and organizations whose area of operations go beyond a country's own borders. Okay, meaning to say, no, kaya nga siya tinawag ng global network kasi nag-expand na siya globally. Okay, yung networks have been expanded globally. Hindi na lang siya nangyayari sa isang bansa, hindi na lang siya nangyayari sa isang locality, bagkus nag-expand na siya globally. Okay? So dito na pumapasok si, of course, ayan, internet and ayan, no, si World Wide Web or internet. Dito na din pumapasok si, ayan, no, nakuha na satellites, internet din yan. And yan, technology. Okay, so dito na pumapasok si internet and technology. So global networks are or global networks happen in this 21st century, no, na mas naging evident na siya. Bakit? Kasi in the 21st century ay nagkaroon ng major development kay internet or World Wide Web, at from that na introduce na si social media. So through social media, people of all nations got connected globally. Okay? So next is of course planetary networks. So pag sinabi natin planetary networks, no, ito na yung tinatawag nating people acting as global citizen. Bakit global citizen? Kasi ito na yung consolidated effort ng all nations and all nationalities in this planet to provide light, love, and care for our planet. Okay? So ito na nga yung tinatawag natin collective effort to sustain the ecological balance and to address the climate change happening in our planet. Okay? So kaya nga siya tinawag na global citizen. So again, pag sinabi natin global citizen, these are the citizens who are collectively putting up efforts, no, to provide light, love, and care for our planet and to address global and planetary problems, yeah, such as climate change. Okay? So these are the three types of networks existing in our society and in our planet in general. Okay, so ayan, no? So gaya nga sinabi ko kanina, under planetary network, meron tayong tinatawag na, ayan, climate change. Okay, so under planetary network is where we collectively put our effort in addressing the problems, no, brought about by climate change. Okay? So next is of course globalization. So gaya nga na sinabi natin kanina, no, if there is, excuse me, no, if there are global networks, then expect meron tayong globalization. Okay? So ano nga ba sa globalization? So pag sinabi natin globalization, this is the process in which the economies of different countries around the world become increasingly assimilated over time. So please take note, globalization is increasingly or brings about increasingly assimilation. Pag sinabi natin assimilation, ito yung what? Ito yung na-expose na tayo. Ito yung exposure natin sa knowledge that has something to do with globalization. Okay? So ulitin ko, pag sinabi natin assimilation, ito yung na-expose tayo, na-immerse tayo sa wider scope of knowledge ng globalization. Okay? And globalization directly affects our economies. Okay? So, dito natin masasabi na ang globalization opens up different opportunities for different economies of different countries. Okay? So, they are uniting as one. Okay? So, under globalization, meron tayong tinatawag na privatization, deregulation, and liberalization. So dito natin mamaya malalaman ano bang pinagkaiba ng privatization sa deregulation and liberalization. So punta muna tayo kay privatization. So globalization as a means of privatization. So pag sinabi natin privatization, ito yung pagbebenta ng mga ano, pagbebenta ng mga government-owned corporations to the private sector. Okay, kaya nga siya tinawag na privatization. Bakit? Kasi si gobyerno, binebenta niya yung kanyang ibang corporations sa private sector. Okay? So example nito is of course ayan, Philippine Airlines, Petron, no? PLDT, National Power Corporation or NPC, and Philpos. Okay? So bakit sila ang examples ng privatization? Kasi noong panahon ni dating Pangulong Cory Aquino hanggang sa kay Pangulong Fidel V. Ramos, privatization was really rampant during those administrations. So nung panahon ni Cory, nabenta ang Philippine Airlines, no? Yan. So nung panahon ni Cory Aquino, nabenta ang Philippine Airlines. At nung panahon naman ni Fidel V. Ramos, nabenta ang PLDT, Petron, Philpos, and National Power Corporation sa private sector. Okay? So bakit nga ba nagpa-privatize ang pamahalaan? There are some reasons why governments do privatize some of their properties or corporations. Number one is to reduce government involvement in commercially viable activities. Ano ibig sabihin nito, sir? Si government ay pumapasok sa privatization kasi hindi niya kayang mag-involve sa lahat ng activities ng mga kumpanya niya. Okay? Bakit? Kasi nga syempre ang dami niyang ginagawa, ang dami niyang function, ang dami niyang duty sa isang country. So ngayon, para mas maging viable, no? Pag sinabi nating viable, para mas mabuhay, okay? Para mas makapag-provide ng service, okay? Para mas maging functional. So, okay? So si government, pumapasok siya sa privatization sa mga private companies para itong mga private companies na mas capable, okay, na mas capable magpatakbo ng itong mga kumpanya na ito ay mas makapagbigay ng tamang serbisyo at um, tamang ano ba tawag ito? Tamang tamang paraan ng pagpapatakbo ng mga business corporations na to or enterprises. Okay? So, yung katulad dun sa PLDT, okay? Katulad ng Philippine Airlines. So, hindi naman all-knowing, okay? Hindi naman expertise ni government na magpatakbo at hindi din kayang tutukan ni government masyado yung tamang pagpapatakbo ng Philippine Airlines, ng PLDT, ng Petron, ng Philpos, ng National Power Corporation. Kaya ang ginawa niya, so nagkaroon siya ng bidding, no, sa mga kumpanya na kayang na mas capable. Alright, na mas capable magtatakbo ng mga nasabing kumpanya. Okay? So para ngayon, so pag nabenta na yun, mas makakapag-focus si government sa dapat niyang mas tutukan talaga. Okay? So next, yan, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, no? To increase efficiency in the delivery of programs. Okay? Para mas maging efficient, para mas maging tama. Okay? Para mas maging tama yung pagbibigay ng serbisyo, yung pagbibigay ng quality of service sa mga mamamayan. Okay? So next is of course, to provide competition. At hindi lang siya competition na healthy competition. So tatandaan nyo, no? So pag may competition, expect na magkakaroon ng development sa services and quality of products ng mga kumpanya. Alright? Bakit? Kasi nga syempre, gusto nila sila yung mas angat, sila yung mas tatangkilikin. Okay? Sa kasamaang palad, hindi kayang gawin yan ng gobyerno. Okay? So next is, of course, address government's limited absorptive capacity. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, no? So kaya kaya pumapasok si government sa privatization is para mas matutukan niya kung ano ba talaga dapat yung tututukan niyang serbisyo, okay, sa mga mamamayan. Okay, kaya ang gagawin niya is mahanap siya ng private companies na mas capable, okay, mas capable na patakbuhin itong mga dating government-owned companies. Okay? So these are the reasons why the government enters into privatization with some private companies. Okay? So next is of course the regulation. So pag sinabi naman natin the regulation, this refers to the streamlining of government's control over the industry for basic commodities like oil supply, water, and electricity. So pag sinabi natin deregulation, binabawasan ni government ang kanyang kapangyarihan sa pagkokontrol ng mga na-privatize na ng mga pag-aari. Okay? So, again, pag sinabi natin deregulation, binabawasan ni government ang kanyang kapangyarihan sa pagkokontrol ng mga dati niyang kumpanya na naibenta na niya sa mga private companies. Okay? So ito naman si private companies ay nagkakaroon ng mas malaking kapangyarihan, no? Or mas malawak na kapangyarihan kung paano niya patatakbuhin yung mga yung mga nabili niyang pag-aari, no? Yung mga nabili niyang corporation mula sa gobyerno. Okay? So ito ay kadalasang nangyayari sa mga industry that provide basic commodities such as oil supply, water, and electricity. Okay? So kung mapapansin nyo nga dito sa Pilipinas, hindi agad-agad nakikialam si government kapag ka nagtataas ng presyo ng crudo or ayan, kapag ka nagkakaroon ng taas presyo sa tubig at sa kuryente. Okay? So next is of course liberalization. Ito na yung last aspect na privatization actually, no? So pag sinabi naman natin liberalization, this refers to the policy wherein laws regarding restrictive importation of products are modified or totally abolished. So pag sinabi natin liberalization, with this root word liberal, meaning to say, pagpapalaya. Okay, pagpapalaya. Okay? So itong mga private companies na nakabili ng mga government-owned corporations, nagkakaroon ng liberalization, magiging liberalize sila. Okay? Bakit? At sa paanong paraan? Okay, so itong si mga private companies na nakabili ng mga government-owned corporations, okay, pwede na ngayon silang pumasok sa pwede na sila ngayon pumasok sa or pwede na sila makipag-deal, okay, pwede na silang pumasok sa foreign business endeavors. Okay? So dito na nangyayari yung nagkakaroon ng pagbili ng stocks or ng shares ng mga foreigners para maging isa sila sa may-ari ng isang Filipino-owned corporation. Okay, so sabi nga dito, no, these are laws, okay, these are policies, these are laws regarding restricted importation of products that have been modified or totally abolished. So, pwedeng nabago or talagang totally nawala. Okay? So, yan, liberalization. So, what are the factors that give rise to globalization? So, number one is, of course, advancement in education. So, we all know, no, everything changes, right? Even people change. Okay? And with that change, and by that change, everything becomes relative, no? Okay, sabi nga, no, change is the only constant thing on our planet. Okay? So, itong si advancement in education, kasama siya sa mga talagang nagbabago. Alright? So, kung noon, ang form of education is exclusive lang sa mga lalaki, okay? And exclusive lang noon sa mga mayayaman, no? Sa mga elitista. So, as time goes by, nagbago. Okay, nagbabago ang education. Okay, so kung yun nga, no? So, as time goes by, pwede nang mag-aral ang mga babae, okay? Pwede nang mag-aral ang mga mahihirap, and nagkaroon na rin ng sinatawag nating education for all, or tinatawag nating EFA. Pag sinabi nating education for all, mayaman, mahirap, may kapansanan, lahat ay dapat makapag-aral at lahat ay dapat mag-aaral. Okay, so ito yung isa sa mga factor na nagbigay sa pag-usbong ng globalisasyon. Next is of course advancement in science and technology. So ayan, no? So alam naman natin lahat na there is a rapid advancements in science and technology, no? And last is, of course, social and political liberalization. Okay? So, nagkakaroon na liberalization, meaning to say, nagkakaroon ng mas malayang politika at mas malayang society. Okay? So, wala na yung mga wala na yung hindi tulad noong panahon nila Rizal o noong panahon ng ating mga lolo't lola na nagkakaroon ng mga sakupan ng bansa. So, ngayon hindi na yun. Okay? We are in a modern society. Okay, we are in a modern society that is brought about by globalization. Okay, so next, so what are the aspects that are associated with globalization? So meron tayong tinatawag na information and communication technology. So pag sinabi natin information and communication technology, this is how we handle, how we process, and how we propagate information through the use of communication and technology. And we do not just simply do those things as simple as that, no? Ginagawa natin ang mga bagay na yun carefully, critically, and responsibly. Okay, kaya nga nabuo si Information and Communication Technology. Okay, next is of course migration. So pag sinabi natin migration, this happens when a person of a particular locality decides to move from his place to another area or to another place where he will settle his life, okay, for good. Okay, so under migration, meron tayong tinatawag na transitional migration. So ano itong transitional migration? Pag sinabi natin transitional migration, this results of the movement and migration of peoples around the globe. Okay, so kaya meron mga Pilipino sa Amerika, sa Canada, at sa iba-ibang panig ng mundo because of migration. Okay, so since nakita nila na mas maganda ang kanila magiging buhay doon sa mga lugar na pinuntahan nila, then they decided to they settle in that area for good. Ibig sabihin, panghabang buhay na. Okay? So, under transitional migration, we have what we call as push and pull factors. So, ano yung push factor? So, these are the factors that are unfavorable about the area. So, pag sinabi natin push factors as a reason for transitional migration, these are the things that are unfavorable about the area. So, ano-ano yun? Ito, hindi sapat na trabaho para sa lahat. Okay? Kakaunting oportunidad para sa lahat. Okay, inadequate conditions, ibig sabihin, laging binabaha. Okay, lagi binabagyo, lagi mainit. Okay? Hindi viable yung lugar nila. Okay? So, desertification. So, pag sinabi natin desertification, okay, nagkakaroon ng matinding tagtuyot sa lugar nila. Okay? So, pag may matinding tagtuyot sa lugar nila, wala silang choice kundi maghanap ng lugar kung saan water is abundant. Okay? There's an abundance of supply of water. Yan, famine or drought. So, taggutom or yun nga, tagtuyo. Okay? So, political fear or persecution. So, sa lugar nila ay, merong form of dictatorship. Okay? Sa lugar nila, merong form of dictatorship and nakita nila na hindi maganda yun para sa kanila. Okay? Wala silang kalayaan para mamili kung sino ang susuportahan nilang politiko, kung sino ang dapat nilang ibotong politiko. Okay? So, and of course is slavery or forced labor. So, nagkakaroon ng mamalupit. Okay, nagkakaroon ng ano tawag dito? Slavery. Yes, slavery. Okay? So, meron pa yan, poor medical care. Ayan, so ito, uso-uso to sa ating mga probinsya, no? Kukunti ang mga ospital. Merong mga hospital, wala namang doktor, wala namang nurse. May doktor nga, may nurse naman, pero hindi naman sapat ang medical utilities. Okay? So, ganun pa din, no? So, next is of course, loss of weight. Ayan, so kasama yan. So, gulat kayo, no, kasama yan, loss of weight. Bakit? Kasi nga, merong tagtuyot, merong tagutom. Okay, namamayat na. Ayan, natural disasters, no? So, ito, parehas to ng inadequate conditions, no? Laging binabagyo, laging binabaha, hindi mawala-wala ang tagtuyot, okay? Hindi mawala-wala ang tag-ulan, yan. So death threats, ayan. So pag may nagtatangka na sa buhay mo, so syempre, natural instinct, aalis ka, lalayo ka. And desire for more political or religious freedom. Okay? So ito yung mga push factors. So again, pag sinabi natin push factors, kaya nga siya tinawag na push factors, these are the reasons or these are the things why people are moving from one area to another and settle there for good. Okay? So next is of course, kabaliktaran naman ni, meron pa pala, no? Pollution, no? Pollution. Okay? So ito naman yung kabaliktaran ni push factor, si pull factor. So ito yung mga humihila. Okay, literal na humihila sa mga tao para magpunta sa kanilang lugar. Okay, so kasi namin natin pull factors, these are the attractions wherein a person wants to live, to work, or to stay in a specific state or country. Okay? So ito yung mga factors kung bakit lumilipat. Okay? Kung ano yung nakapag-attract sa kanila para lumipat sa isang bagong community or sa isang bagong lugar. Okay, so ito, kabaliktaran na nga nito, no, job opportunities. So maraming, kung hindi marami, sobra-sobra ang mga job opportunities. Okay? So next, ayan, better living conditions. So naging ano na, no, naging favorable na sa'yo yung living conditions. So kung noon sa lugar mo, laging baha, dito hindi. Okay? Kung hindi man, binabaha, ano lang, seldom lang ang flooding at nawawala agad. Okay? So next, more political and religious freedom. So kaya mong may karapatan ka, may kalayaan kang pumili kung sino ang gusto mong iboto, kung sino ang gusto mong suportahan, at kung ano ang religious, kung ano ang gusto mong relihiyon na samahan. Okay? Next is of course enjoyment. Na-enjoy mo ng lugar. Okay? Maraming mga bagay, no? Marami kang nakitang bagay na nakapag-enjoy sa'yo, na nakapag-entice sa'yo, nawala doon sa dati mong tinitirhan. Okay? Next is of course education. No? So there are schools, there are educational institutions that offer quality, no, better quality education than those in your old area. Okay? And next is of course better medical care. Okay? So maganda ang pasilidad ng ospital, kumpleto ang doktor, may mga nurse, lahat kumpleto, wala ka nang hahanapin. Okay? Yan, attractive climates. So pag sinabi natin attractive climates, of course, no, may season ng tag-ulan, may season ng tag-tuyot. Yan, may balance. Okay? Next is of course security. Okay? Feeling mo talagang secured ka. Okay? Secured ka financially, secured ka economically, secured ka in terms of your health and everything. Okay? So family links. Okay, so ito, isa din to sa mga reason, no. So since nandito yung iyong kamag-anak, nandito yung kapatid, nandito yung magulang, so lilipat ka para kayo ipagkasama-sama. Okay, so of course industry. So ayan, may mga mall, okay, may mga recreational parks, recreational areas, may mga parks, may mga um, batawag dito, may mga lugar kung saan ka pwede magsaya. Okay? Next is of course better chances of marrying. So kung noon doon sa lugar mo wala kang makitang mapapangasawa mo kasi lahat mahirap at ayaw mo lumaki talaga, ayaw mo tumandang naghihirap, then lumipat ka. And luckily for you, no, sa paglipat mo nakakita ka ng mapapangasawa mo. Okay? Na hindi about sa pera, kundi talaga mahal mo. Okay? So yun. So yun ang mga push and pull factors. Okay? So, next is of course types of globalization. So, narinig na mga tinatawag na types of globalization. Number one is, ayan, economic globalization, cultural globalization, and political globalization. So, punta tayo kay economic globalization. So, pag sinabi natin economic globalization, This denotes the increasing web of economic interdependence among national economies around the globe. So plain and simple. So pag sinabi natin economic globalization, dito na pumapasok yung pagkakaroon ng open trading and open foreign exchange of goods and services between and among economies around the globe. Okay, kaya nga tayo meron tinatawag na stock market. Okay, kaya tayo meron tinatawag na stock market kasi merong mga foreign companies no, na nag-invest sa atin at tayo din nag-invest sa kanilang mga sa kanilang economy. Okay? So, ang examples niyan, ayan, ADB or Asia Development Bank. Okay, so sa Asia Development Bank, ang bangko na pwedeng utangan ng isang bansa sa Asia. Okay, so yan, si ADB, no? So another example is, ayan, so World Bank. Okay, so kung maaalala nyo, no, ang ating gobyerno ay nangutang kay ADB at kay World Bank ng pambili ng supply ng bakuna para sa lahat. Okay? And of course, this we also have World Trade Organization. So pag sinabi natin World Trade Organization, this is where the global trading happens. Okay? So next is of course cultural globalization. So pag sinabi naman natin cultural globalization, this refers to the transfer and sharing of insights, experiences, and values across the globe that create greater social interaction. So dito pumapasok sa tinatawag nating pop culture or tinatawag nating popular culture. So pag sinabi natin cultural globalization, yung culture ng isang bansa ay nakikilala sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Okay? Ayan, example lang sa atin. Sabi nga sa isang study, no, our accent, okay, the Filipino accent is the sexiest accent or one of the sexiest accent, no? If not the sexiest, one of the sexiest accent in the whole wide world. Okay? So yung ating kultura, okay, kasi yung accent natin is part of our culture, ay mas nakilala sa buong mundo. Okay? O another more common example of this is yung tinatawag nating K-pop or Korean pop fever. Okay, so noon wala tayong ka-idea sa kultura ng Korea. Pero ngayon, no, ever since the advent and genesis, okay, advent and genesis of globalization, nakilala natin ang iba't ibang kultura ng Korea, ng bansang Korea. At ang hindi lang ng Korea, no, pati ng Thailand, ng Amerika. Ayan, kaya nga tayo merong spaghetti. Okay, kaya tayo nagsusuot ng denim jeans. Kaya tayo merong iPhone. Okay? Kasi nga this is the offspring of cultural globalization. Okay? And next is of course political globalization. So pag sinabi natin political globalization, this refers to the growth of the worldwide political system both in size and complexity. So an example niyan ay si European Union. So si European Union ang um, political body ng mga bansa sa Europa. Okay? Next, example, ayan. So ito in terms of um, Southeast Asia, no? Ito yung counterpart natin, yan si ASEAN, no? Okay, so pag sinabi ng ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, okay? Okay, dyan din pumapasok si United Nations. Ayan, and si International Criminal Court. So si International Criminal Court, ang bahala, no, ang nag-iimbestiga at naghahatol sa kahit na sinong political figure ng iba't ibang bansa kung napatunayan sila ay guilty sa mga kasong isinampas sa kanila dito sa International Criminal Court. Okay? So again, pag sinabi natin political globalization, ito na yung nagkakaroon ng interdependence when it comes to the political aspects of every country or every nation. Okay, so moving on. So what are the effects of globalization? So number one, globalization provides an increased level in the level of global output. So ibig sabihin, no, dahil kay globalization, nagkaroon ng pagdami or pagtaas ng level of global output. Ibig sabihin, no, pag sinabi natin global output, ito yung contributions ng bawat nation sa either economy, either politics, either culture, or anything. Okay? Mas nakikilala yung isang bagay. Okay? So next, globalization brings the best technology and other forms of intellectual capital to countries that cannot produce it. Okay? So, kaya meron tayong iPhone dito sa Pilipinas kasi dahil kay globalization. Okay? Kaya meron tayong mga personal computers, kaya tayo merong mga kaya tayo merong internet connection ay dahil kay globalization. Okay? Okay, so yan yung second reason. Next. So international capital flows can transfer savings from countries where the marginal product capital is low to those where it is high. So ibig sabihin na nagkakaroon ng trading. Okay, at pwedeng mangutang ang bawat isang bansa na sa tingin nila ay nagkakaroon sila ng scarcity in terms of their money, in terms of their finance. Okay? So next is, globalization influences the distribution and levels of income. So ito yung actually ito yung both positive and negative effect of communication. So positive, bakit? Kasi nagkakaroon ng more or clearer distribution of income sa bawat tao sa ibang bansa, sa bawat tao sa isang bansa. Okay? And saddening, bakit? Kasi nagkaroon ng marginalization na tinatawag natin. Pag sinabi natin marginalization, ito yung mga taong nasa laylayan ng lipunan. Ito yung mga talagang dukha na hindi masyadong naaabot ng gobyerno, ng pamahalaan. Okay? So yun yun. Okay? So next is we move to the strategic analysis and intuitive thinking. So strategic analysis and intuitive thinking are they are an important aspects of globalization. Okay, so ano nga ba Okay, so ito is ano nga ba strategic analysis? So pag sinabi natin strategic analysis, this refers to a system or method that requires deliberate, yan, abstract and effortful thinking that breaks down a complex problem into parts. So pag sinabi natin strategic analysis, these are your immediate actions regarding how you are going to address a particular problem. Okay? So you are analyzing, the problem wherein you are going to apply the appropriate system or method that requires you deliberate, abstract, and effortful thinking. Okay? So in other words, in short, pag sinabi natin strategic analysis, you are doing breaking down of complex problems into parts, and then you are going to think of your strategy or strategies that you think will address effectively the problem at hand. Okay, so ito yung mga process. Okay, so this cycle shows us and tells us the process of strategic analysis. So first is of course identify the problem. Okay, dapat mo munang malaman kung ano yung problema. Hindi ka kaagad-agad gagawa ng aksyon kung in the first place wala namang problema. Okay, hindi mo bubuuin yung isang bagay kung hindi naman siya in the first place sira. Okay? So mangyayari lang, may apply lang si strategic analysis kung merong problema. And first, you have to identify the nature of the problem. Okay? So next step is of course analyze the problem. So ito na yung talagang ina-apply mo na si strategic analysis. Bakit? Kasi nagkakaroon na ng analyzing. At pag sinabi natin analyzing, you are breaking down, you are chopping down the problem or the complex problem into smaller pieces. Okay? So, yan. So, next is of course generate a solution. So, nakita mo na yung connection ng different or na-analyze mo na yung problema, next is of course, you have now to generate a solution. So you have to formulate now a solution to the problem. And next is of course, implement the solution. So dito mo itatry, no? Dito mo itatry kung yung solution ba is effective or not. Okay? And reflect on the outcome. So dito mangyayari, dito sa last process, mangyayari kung yung solution ba na in-implement at na-generate ay effective through the outcomes it brought about. Okay? Doon mo malalaman sa mga resulta. Okay? Doon mo malalaman sa mga resulta kung yung solution mo ay epektibo or hindi. Okay? At pag hindi, then balik ka na naman sa step 1. Okay? Back to zero ka. Okay? And next is of course intuitive thinking. So pag sinabi natin intuitive thinking, this is your quick and ready insight. Okay? Quick and ready insight. Meaning to say, this is your immediate gut feeling. Okay? This is your immediate gut feeling as to how you are going to address the problem at hand. Okay? Ito yung pinakaunang solusyon na maiisip mo kung paano mo susolusyonan yung problema. Okay? So, intuitive thinking is another approach to decision making. This is the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning. So, ibig sabihin mo, pag sinabi natin intuitive thinking, this is your ability to understand something instinctively, meaning to say you are using your instinct. Okay? You are using your instinct without the need for you to be rational. Okay? Kasi nga, sabi ko nga kanina, ito yung immediate. Okay? Ito yung immediate solution mo sa isang problema. Okay? So sa tingin mo, ito yung dapat agad gawin. Okay? So example, may sunog. So nakita mo may sunog, anong una mong gagawin? So syempre, kukuha ka ng tubig, bubusan mo ng tubig para mapatay. Okay? Or tatawag ka ng bombero. Or sisigaw ka ng tulong. Okay? So yun yung mga actions na yun, yung mga possible solutions na yun doon sa problema mo sa sunog, ang tinatawag natin intuitive thinking. Those are the examples of intuitive thinking. Okay? So sometimes intuitive thinking is referred to as gut feeling, sixth sense, inner sense, instinct, inner voice, spiritual guide, etc. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, no? So nakita mo may sunog sa loob ng bahay mo. So ano ba dapat una mong gawin, no? Okay? So hindi ka syempre magtatagal ang pag-iisip. So at that point, nakita mo yung sunog, okay, gagawa kang agad ng bagay para mawala yung sunog. Okay? At bahala ka na kung anong gagawin mo. Okay? So, intuitive thinking is affected by how one feels and define a thing or event. Okay? So, through intuitive thinking, you will be able to be defined according to the actions that you did in addressing the problem. Okay? Immediately. So, kunyari, nakita mo na may sunog, nakita mo tumunganga ka lang, tinignan mo lang yung sunog, hanggang sa lumaki. So, mababranded ka as, walang mahina ang iyong pag-iisip, mahina ang iyong decision making skills. Okay? So, that is intuitive thinking. So, merong 3 key components ang intuitive thinking. Number 1 is, of course, immediacy, or yung sinasabi natin mabilisan, sensing relationship. So, ano yung relationship ng isang pangyayari sa gagawin mo about that pangyayari. Okay? And of course, reason. So, bakit mo yun nagawa? Okay? Ano yung nag-udyok sa iyo para gawin yun? Ano yung nag-udyok sa iyo para gawin yung solution na to sa isang problema na nakita mo? Okay? So, ayan. So this Venn diagram shows us the differences and similarities of strategic analysis and intuitive thinking. So both these skills have logical mind needed as their common denominator. Okay, so pag ikaw is pag meron kang strategic analysis and intuitive thinking, ibig sabihin meron kang logical mind. Okay, meron kang logical mind. Okay? So ano bang pagkakaiba nila? So strategic analysis starts from an idea or concept and moves on to what can be associated with it. This is brain-centered. Okay? Brain-centered. Bakit? Kasi nga pinag-iisipang mabuti. Wala siyang tinatawag nating immediacy. Okay? Hindi siya immediate. Okay? So, strategic analysis deals with the hard facts, data, and instructions. Okay? Kasi nga pinag-iisipan mabuti. Next, needs time to finish in one or more sittings or sessions. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, okay, pinaghahandaan, pinag-iisipan mabuti. And of course, it is well planned. Okay? May plano talaga. Whereas pag sinabi natin intuitive thinking, this focuses on the idea or concept and its attributes. Okay? So dito, kay strategic analysis, okay, it starts from an idea or concept. Pero dito naman, no, intuitive thinking focuses on idea or concept. Next, kung si strategic analysis ay brain-centered, intuitive thinking naman ay heart-centered. Okay? Ginagawa mo kung ano yung una mong nararamdaman. Okay? Kay intuitive thinking. Kay strategic analysis naman, ginagawa mo kung ano yung una mong naiisip. Okay? So, kung kay intuitive thinking, hunches, instinct, gut feelings are more important. Okay? So, hindi ka pag ginagamit sa intuitive thinking, hindi mo kailangan mag-research. Okay? Kasi nga, immediate dapat ang actions. Okay? Next, ito, spontaneous, quick, and finish at one time. Okay? So, ayan nga, spontaneous. And it is unplanned. Okay? Hindi siya pinag-aaralan, hindi siya pinagpaplano. Okay? So next of course, climate change. Okay? So ito na yung last concept. Okay? So pag sinabi natin climate change, this is a direct or indirect result of human activity altering the composition of the global atmosphere. So alam na natin to sa climate change, no? So sabi nga, no, we still have 9 years to address effectively the drastic and climatic changes that climate change will bring about come 2030. Okay? So again, pag sinabi natin climate change, ito yung pwedeng direct or indirect results of human activity. Okay? So next, so what are the causes of climate change? So ano-ano ba yung mga causes ng climate change? So number one is of course mainly human activity, which is we can all agree on. No? Human activities naman talaga ang main causes na climate change. Hindi mo masasabing animal activity kasi hindi naman natin katulad mag-isip ang mga ibang hayop. Okay? So under this, we have pollution and gases and population. Okay? So what are the effects of climate change? So kung kanina, what are the causes? This one is what are the effects? So cause and effect. So number one is of course greenhouse effect, ecological issues, ayan, rising water level and flooding, extreme weather conditions, desertification, and changes in vegetation. So pag sinabi natin greenhouse effect, ito yung natatrap yung sobrang init. Okay, natatrap yung sobrang init sa ating mundo. So instead na nagba-bounce back siya sa solar system, ang nangyayari is dahil nga sa kapal ng pollution sa langit, natatrap yung init. Okay, so ang tendency niyan, umiinit yung kapaligiran natin. Okay, so yan, ecological issues. Okay, so nagkakaroon ng deforestation, landslides, ayan, illegal mining activities, hindi pagtatamang tapon ng basura sa tamang tapunan, ayan. So rising water level and flooding. So ito nararanasan natin to, no? Rising water level. So sabi nga, no, in 100 years from now, there are some areas in Manila that will be submerged in water. Bakit? Kasi nga unti-unting tumataas ang tubig sa Manila Bay. Okay? So extreme weather conditions, ito nararanasan din natin ito, no? Nagkakaroon na tayo ng mga super typhoon. No? Ayan, no? Super typhoons, nabubuo. Okay? So desertification, ayan. So pag sinabi natin desertification, ito yung paglambot ng lupa. Okay? Pagguho ng lupa. Okay? And changes in vegetation. So nagkakaroon ng poison. Okay? Hindi naman talaga literally poison, pero nagkakaroon ng ano ba tawag dito? Detrimental. Okay? Detrimental effects in terms of vegetable productions. Okay? So yon. Okay? So these are the effects of climate change. So again, if you have any questions regarding the lessons or regarding the concepts that I have discussed here on this pre-recorded lesson, please write them down first, and then raise it to me as soon or as we have our synchronous session. Okay? So I hope you learned something from my discussion. So I hope you learned something from my discussions today, and see you again on our next pre-recorded lesson video. Have a good day, everyone.